I think one of the keys to being faithful to the Lord is just taking one day at a time and being as true to yourself in terms of who you are as a child of God, and obedient to what you understand He wants of you for today, and to take advantage and not miss the opportunities that He brings before you every day, is really the ultimate faithful servant. Beyond that, it becomes a more challenging thing that I think catches us up, trips us up, and sometimes even paralyzes us as Christians, that trying to determine what does God want from my life long term. And the answer is He wants you to love Him, He wants you to love other people, and He wants you to be faithful to the things that He's called us to do. And He lays those things out very clearly in His Word. For people like myself, we see need, and it overwhelms us. I personally am very introverted. I need my alone time. And the Lord knows those things about us. He's created us this way, and He calls us out of those. He calls us to stretch us and to grow us, to step out in ways that are uncomfortable, into things that we don't want to do necessarily. Many times, no, not signing up for that. And He gives us the choice. He's gracious enough to give us the choice. And the problem is, and I know this in my heart of hearts, and yet I still battle, that every time I say, no, I'm not signing up for that, I lose blessing. And He's going to accomplish His will with or without me. Yet I'm choosing to not accept blessing from His hand because I don't want to deal with suffering or difficulty or drama or sacrifice, personal sacrifice. Life is messy. Loving other people is a very messy thing. And it requires sacrifice, personal sacrifice of our own desires, our own dreams sometimes. And yet, ultimately, what we're sacrificing, what we're laying down and letting go of, is not nearly as valuable as what God is giving us in return of the eternal blessings, of the changed lives and saved souls that will come from us loving others well and us speaking boldly the gospel out into this dark world, because this dark world is getting darker every day, and there are so many people around us that are hurting in our current community and around the world. We've seen suicidal tendencies in people, not only the people who take their own lives, but then you start talking about people who are willing to commit horrendous acts and take their own lives in that process. So it's easy to see the darkness. And for God to have His children here that have the hope that He wants to give the world, and yet to sit inside my home, speaking to myself, preaching to myself, to sit inside my home and reach out only a little bit because that's all I'm comfortable with, is a shame. It's a shame. And I know that. The question becomes, am I willing to trust God enough to know that what I sacrifice and what I step into is not going to overwhelm me to the point of costing me anything of any value? That's the question. Am I willing? And do I trust him? So hopefully it gives you something to think about today. I pray for myself more than anything, for you as well, that God will give us the strength and the wisdom and the filling of his Holy Spirit, because I know without it I can't do anything. And that he would be glorified through his children, that our choices in our lives would speak boldly for him, and that we would be willing to lay down whatever he asks of us. So I pray today you take opportunities that God presents to you, and that you really will consider the blessings that God has given you, that he wants you to use to build his kingdom, whatever that looks like for you. The skills, the giftedness, the resources, the time, the mental capacity, the love, the talents, your giftedness, and that you would have boldness to share with other people what you believe and why you believe it in such a loving way that it draws them in. Doesn't argue. We're such an argumentative society anymore. We're not arguing. We're just speaking the truth as we know it from God's perspective. It's the only truth that really is available to people. And it does give people hope that they do have a future, that they have a God that loves them, and they need that information. They need that reassurance. They need... It's surprising to me how many people do not know the basics of the gospel message. And we need to share it. We need to speak it at every opportunity and look for those opportunities. Place yourself, position yourself in such a way that you would be available for such opportunities, whether it's your family, your friends, the friends of your children, your coworkers, people at the gym, whatever it is. God's going to put people in your path that are hurting and that need to be loved and that need the truth of his word. So have a blessed day. Shine the light of Jesus. Leave a little bit of Jesus wherever you go, and give God all the glory. It's a wonderful day. This is a day that the Lord has made. Might be a hot one, but it is the day that he's given us, and we have today, and that's all we're promised. So make the best of it.